Hi, I think I've got a technique down, so I want to try to make a quick video on how to use Blender GIS and Roblox. And I know my videos have been like an hour, 2 hours long as I stumble through trying to figure out techniques, but I think I got something going here. So first I'm going to launch Blender, and this is version 2.8, which takes some relearning, but it's great. And then I'm going to also launch Roblox Studio, and that'll be something else. Okay, so in Blender, the first thing to do, I'm going to turn on screen if I can, so you can see screencast keys. That's a plugin, and let's see, that should help you see right down here what I'm doing in green. So I'm going to remove the cube, don't need that, bing, goodbye, and I actually don't need the camera, and I don't need the light, so they just would confuse things. I hit the 7 key to be in top orthographic. If you're in top perspective, hit the 5 key, and that'll take you either into perspective or orthographic. And then I've got Blender GIS plugin in here, so you'll have to get that plugin. I'm not going to show you how to do that here. Look it up, Blender GIS, and insert that that plugin there. But when you have that, I'm going to go into Web Geodata and get a base map, and I'm going to use Google Satellite, and bing, the base map's going to come in. I'm then going to hit G, which doesn't show up in the screencast keys. G is the go-to base map, and I'm going to type in Patel College of Global Sustainability and hope that Google recognizes it. Set my zoom level to 19 or 20 or so. 21's fine. And does it know what it is? And nah, doesn't know what it is. So do it again. This time I'll go University of South Florida and put Tampa, and again the zoom level, and bing, there we go. So now I gotta find the Patel. Whoa. So zoom in on that, and let's see what it gives me. Okay, so down here, so the Patel College is there, and I just want the area with the Museum of Science and Industry and Patel College and a few other sort of buildings. I don't want to make this a huge thing. Maybe I'll just have the Patel. I do want the library in there, so yeah, that's probably a good one. And then you hit, I don't know if screencast keys is going to work on this now. Once you're in this, it doesn't show up at all. So you're going to hit E for export the map, and there it is. And now my screencast keys should show up. Yep, okay. So I've got that. Bling. Now I'm not going to do any kind of contours because they kind of mess up Roblox right now, and I'll figure that out. So what I'm going to do next is go back to GIS, go to Web Geodata, and I'm going to get the OpenStreetMap. The SRTM would be depth information for digital elevation maps, and it just makes things kind of crazy for what I'm trying to do in Roblox. Eventually I'll work out better techniques for that. So I'm just going to go OSM, and I'm going to go buildings, and the elevation from the object itself, and the elevation object is going to be, I'm not going to do the object, why not? Default height 20 units. That's probably pretty high, so let me, because these are placeholders for me, really let me go to say 5 and see what that does. And I want to keep the object separate for sure. And boom, look at all those buildings that get pulled in. I don't want all of them, so what I'm going to do is click off of them. Whoops. And I'm going to use the B bounding box for select and get rid of all the buildings that are not part of the map that I'm working with. And I do also have to turn off the map because that got caught somehow in there. Let me see if I hold Shift key down. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to delete those with the X key. Goodbye. And I'm going to do the same thing, hit B for the bounding box and grab these and get rid of those because they'll just gum things up. And those buildings, and whoops. Oh, I guess I can take all those, can't I? All right. Goodbye. Goodbye, external buildings. So now I have some buildings on here, and the one I'm interested in, of course, the most is Patel. Maybe I made it too small, but hey, for now it's okay. So each building is different. When I click on that, it actually says Patel Center for Global Solutions. Look at that. It actually knows. This one here says the Youngling Center, And this one here is the Muna College of Business. And this one here is 37566954. So some of the buildings it doesn't know. But at least I have them as separate objects. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and maybe this is a bit of a pain here, but I've got to go up and I've got to make everything 5 times as big, because Roblox is 5 times larger than Google Maps as they come in. So I'm going to take this whole map and I'm going to go to the scale and size it in X and size it in Y as a massive map. Now the Patel is nowhere near where it's supposed to be. Look at that, it's way off the map. But if I hit the Patel, and there it is, the Patel, and I scale that up in X and in Y, boom, it actually fits the landscape now. I went right where we're supposed to. And I'm going to scale this up in Z because it should be 5 times larger. The landscape didn't have to get scaled up. And I'm going to grab a couple of other buildings that I want. You can do this with each and every building. I wish there was a way that we could select them all and scale them, and probably some of you will figure out a way to do that. I don't know how it is, because if I grab this and this and this, and I go and hit 5, 5, and 5, it just picks up the last piece of building that I hit. So you'll have to go through, and you're probably asking, why didn't I just keep them all one object? Well, because then they become really kludgy. But, you know, I mean, you could do, yeah, you could, and then separate them later. So if you want to do that, then select your landscape and hide it with the H key, and then select all the other buildings that you haven't yet made large. Or you know what we can do? Yeah, you know, probably do this is probably better. Let's just go in and take these, delete them all, and go back to our Alt-H brings the map back, and bring in the buildings again, import as a, no, sorry, web geodata, get OpenStreetMap, buildings, but let's not separate them as objects. Let's make them just one big object. And there's still stuff left on this map for some reason that shouldn't be in there, so I'm going to get rid of that. Bang. Oh, get rid of it. Delete hierarchy. Yeah, it's gone now. All right, so I'm going to come in here and do the web geodata OSM, get my buildings, but not make them separate objects. And then when they come in, well, they come in as one big object. All right, so if you are doing it again like I did, and you bring them in all as one object, so they're one object, then you're going to have trouble erasing parts of it because they're all one object. So you'll have to go into Tab. Let me turn my screen keys on again. Screen keys. Yeah. You'll have to hit Tab to put them into edit mode, and then when you hit your B, your bounding box, you're going to have to go in and try to get rid of all the vertices. Now they don't all go away. Now why is that? Because you need to be in wireframe mode if you want to get all the vertices, and that was by hitting Z. And then the new Blender 2.8 has wireframe over here and solid over here. So you go to wireframe, and that lets, when you use the B, it like lasers through like X-ray vision, and it should get rid of all the vertices there. So yeah, you're going to have to do that, be in wireframe mode, and then come down and then delete those vertices and these vertices down here, and these vertices over here. And of course we don't want to get rid of our other object, which is the export map, but it shouldn't get rid of because we're in edit only on the buildings. So I'm grabbing these other vertices. It may make for really weird buildings, like that one there is no longer a building at all, it's just 2 vertices. And the same with this building up here. So you're going to have a little more work to do to clean this up. And I guess all these buildings on the corner here got lost, something as if a hurricane dragged through and got rid of some stuff, along with these buildings here. And so if it's not on campus completely, we don't want you. We don't care about you. So there. So now when you tab out of that, you have these buildings, and we'll get out of wireframe with Z and go to solid, and you see the buildings there on the map once again. But this is the fresh map, not enlarged. I mean, I re-brought in the map. Now I can take my map and make it 5 times as big for Roblox. 5. Note I do not need to do that for the Z-axis. And then I can grab all of my buildings because they're one object now. And now I can scale the whole thing up. 5, 5, 5. And that's okay to do. It may create some weird collision things, but you'll notice that now the buildings are all sitting on the map where they're supposed to, on a map 5 times as large. The only problem is it's going to be weird collisions and stuff, so you might want to separate out. So one thing I'm definitely going to do is separate out the Patel. So when I click on this and I go into tab, I'm going to select the Patel, and then I'm going to go to mesh and separate by selection. And now, ooh, no, I shouldn't have done that. Control Z. Again, I should have gone into wireframe mode so I can select all of the Patel points. So there we go. That should do it. Now go to mesh and separate by selection. Now that building is a separate object. And I could do that for all the buildings now. I just wanted to do that so far for Patel because I'm going to export Patel. And eventually I'll export all the models and see if they fit. Look at your triangles. That's crucial. And when you do an export for Roblox, you've got to make sure it's under 10,000. So when I do my export of Patel, which is now called Areas Building 1, so I'll call it Patel College. Remember how when I brought them in as separate objects, each had a name, but now this is just one big object, and I separated one building out. So there's the Patel College there. I'm not going to get any name information for the others. They're just a building, one giant building. All right, so if I turn off all of the other buildings, this drops here, the triangles at 7,512, drops down to 97 triangles because it's not a really complex object. That's crucial that you do that though when you're exporting. And I will go to File, and I will go to Export, and I will go to Object, Wavefront Object. You can use FBX or Wavefront Object. And then I'm going to do this in Exports to Roblox, and I'm going to make a new folder in here that's going to be called USF Exports from Blender GIS to Roblox. All right, and I will put it in that folder and call it the Patel object. All right, now that's been exported. Now what I need to do is I need to unhide this. I need to, if I try to export this plane, which has only 99 triangles, chances are it will not come into Roblox, unfortunately. So what I've had to do is I've had to make borders. So what I do, because I mean I can show you that it doesn't come in, but let me do it because it never has worked before. Well, what I do is I go to Add Mesh and Plane, and that plane that I create there, which is really tiny right now, I scale it up and scale it up, and then I drag it over and to this corner here, and I go into Edit, and I select the bottom two, select the bottom 2 points, and then I go GZ, oops, not Z, didn't mean that because Z is not down, GY, and drag it down to make a border. And then I get out of that, tab out of that, and then I've got a border there, and I can call that plane, I'll call it left border, and then I will duplicate it with Shift D, and then drag it with GX across to the other side, and I'll call that one right border, of course. And then I will take that same thing, because the left border is over here and the right border is over there. Sometimes it helps for visualization. Oh yeah, if you fill it in, and I don't think this needs to be, if I go to Tab and I select everything and I hit F, it's already got a face, so it doesn't need a face. But if you want to confirm that it has a face, then give it a material, and the same thing with that one, give it a material. Anyway, now that I've got that one, I Shift D on that and I bring it to the center, and then I rotate it in Z, shoop, like so. Or you can hit rotate 90 so you know that it's perfect. And then GX drag it, and you then of course go into edit and click off of it and grab these sides here, and then GX drag it out. It would help if I could see over here. GX drag it out to the somewhere on the other corner, and then you've got that one, and then you can duplicate that, and of course G in Y to bring it straight down to the bottom. And then that becomes your bottom border. And then you have your top border. The method to this madness will become clear if I could get out of caps lock. All right. So we've got these borders here, and you're going to export those out because that will let you know where the map is. The other thing I'm going to do before I do my exporting is I'm going to turn on the areas building, and just to show that things are proper, I'm going to take the Alumni Center here and I'm going to get into wireframe and select with the bounding box, and then separate it with mesh. P usually works. If you hit P, it's by selection. So I've got another building there, and that building is going to be called Alumni Center. And I'll take one other building here and do the same thing with it. I will tab out of that, select, oops, there we go. Tab in here, grab all the, ooh, didn't mean to get all those. Grab this building, and I can't remember what building that is, but I'll just hit P to separate that by selection, and then call that that big building, USF building, and I'll look it up later. So I've got a couple of buildings now that I can export out from this entire landscape. The Alumni Center is now its own building, and this building is its own building. The rest are just one big mess. So once again, I want to show just that one, so I'm going to actually hit Shift H, and that's the only one that shows, and that means I'm going to get very few triangles, 226. So I'm going to export that as an object, and I'll call this the USF big building for whatever it's worth. Great for that. Now unhide everything with Alt H and go to my Alumni Center building and take that one and then hit Shift H, so that's the only one we see, and export it. I could have made a terrible mistake here. Oh, I did. It's supposed to be selection only. You have to have selection only selected, even though they're hidden. I think. I'll find out. But you should check that one. And this is called Alumni Center. I could have made the mistake by not having checked selection only that when I look at those actual objects, and you can check it by going to your folder where you have your exports and find that folder And let's see if I put Patel and click on it, what does the 3D viewer tell me? Did I just get Patel? If Patel would show up. Oh no, see, I got the entire landscape, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to call that whole landscape. That's embarrassing. And I'm going to now redo Patel. So I'm going to go back to Alt-H and just grab Patel, hit Shift-H, that's the only one we see, but now I'm going to go and I do my export as a wavefront object. I have make sure that selection only is checked, and now I will call it Patel. There we go, I'll call it Patel, and export it. It does seem like, by the way, that Patel object MTL, which is the material, no longer is relevant. It should be now whole landscape USF material, for what it's worth, but I'm never going to use it, so it doesn't really matter. Patel object has its own material now, and I've got to do the same thing for my other buildings. So again, Alt-H to lift them all up. The Patel, the Alumni Center, I think we just did that one. Yeah, because look at how teeny they are. 5 kilobytes. Alumni Center, 5 kilobytes. USF building object is huge, 364. So that's not right at all. And look at the whole landscape, 361 kilobytes. You can kind of tell that you have done your homework. So this one here, I'm going to re-export. And it doesn't matter if I leave the stuff on. It'll do the selection only. It's just that it'll also export, for some reason, 7,000 triangles instead of just a few. So that's why you have to go and hit Shift-H to just see that. And the triangles jump to 226. So do it. Get rid of everything, hide everything else, and then when you do your export, go down and make sure selection only is checked. And then this is going to be called USF Big Building. I'm going to write over that one, and I wrote over it, and now lo and behold, it's only 10 kilobytes here. Alrighty, so now I've got some of those things. Oh yes, and I must. Let me go back to Alt-H. I have to get my borders. My bottom border and my left border and my right border. I'm really going to do each of them. Well, it would be interesting if I could do them as one object. It might let me. Sometimes it doesn't. Roblox is really funny. So we can try it. We can try to do all the borders and select them and then do the Shift-H. And then we could export the object as borders. No caps. So there. All right. Now, what we do then is we go to Roblox Studio, and we want to create a new game. So to Roblox Studio, probably the simplest place to create is just a base plate. So you go to the base plate and you say new, and it takes its sweet time. And you get this base plate, and that just gives you a location, so keep it there in the beginning. And then, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to File. We're going to actually save to File As. We're going to make this, call this a Patel, or actually they're not going to use that. Well, we'll use it for now because they won't let you use real names in Roblox. But Patel, let me just call it College Sustainability. And we save that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to right click and go insert part object and do a mesh part. There it is. And that mesh part is going to be our frame. So I'm going to pick the frame, exports to Roblox in USF exports, and borders. Now if it worked, we should see the borders here. And maybe it's not going to let us. We'll see. Nothing's coming up. Awful. It's a very large mesh. No, we don't want to resize it. The location data is there. What happens? Nothing. It just is atrocious. So that's what I meant by, there it is. You can see the frame, but it doesn't show up. So it's, hi. So it's not what we want. So hold on a second. We're going to go back to Blender, and I'm just going to do one at a time. I'm going to do export the top one and say export wavefront objects, selection only, and I'll call this top border. And it's only got 8 triangles, so it's not like it should be a problem. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to take the export here and say left border and export that. And let's try bottom border. Bottom border. And let's go to the right border. And right border. And let's hope that this works this time. So we go into Roblox Studio, we find that mesh part, but we're going to make that mesh part just the bottom border for now. And even that isn't showing up. No, yes. It's not. Okay. It's not showing anything. So that is interesting and disturbing. If I go to the terrain, there's nothing there. The base plate is there, but where is this mesh part? Oh, it's there floating. Now, can we get to it? No, it doesn't have any. So even if I go to the base plate and I highlight the mesh part, if I go to move, let's suggest that there is a something there. Maybe we did have it work. I just moved it down to the plate. Maybe it just needs a material. So I'm going to make it metal. And I'm going to give it a color. And does it show up? Not really. It certainly doesn't have any dimension or show up at all. And that is weird because it is there. And if I put a decal on it, you can go to images and search for any decal. Let me just put this guy here onto the mesh part. No, it's not going to do it. The mesh part doesn't have any information that lets you put the detail. Well, let's see, before we abandon all hope, if I, instead of putting in that mesh part, if I put in the Patel building, there's that building, then that building, don't resize it, put it in, that building's supposed to show up. And it's not showing up either. Well, this is very strange. The big building. How baffling. In fact, it's not responding. Well, it did come in. It took its sweet time, but it came in. And that's the buildings. So let's try doing the buildings now, see if they can even come in. Worry about the borders later. So I'm going to now duplicate this with Control D. It gives me 2 buildings. But this building, I'm not even going to mess with. I just wanted to separate it so you could see that it's 2 buildings. That one's in the right location. It's using the location data from the map from Blender. And I'm going to open this up. Actually, I should have called this one here. I'll call it Big USF Building. And then I will go to this mesh part, and I'm going to call this Patel and see if Patel comes in here. So I've just renamed it. I've made a duplicate, but I'm going to go to Patel and then take the Patel object and bring it in. Don't resize it and move it to the location. So what did it do? It did absolutely nothing. It did not recognize that mesh. Let's see if the Alumni Center comes in. No, yes. There we go. So the Alumni Center came in. So there's something wrong with Patel. I don't know what it is, but if I change now the name of this to Alumni, all right, and then I go to base plate and hit F to find the base plate. Somewhere in this world, a very big world, there is the Patel and the big building. And they are situated where they ought to be. This one in relation to this one, the Alumni Center. Patel is supposed to come in here too. So I'm going to take the Alumni Center that I've just done, and I'm going to go Control D and make another Alumni Center. And again, it doesn't matter, shouldn't matter where I put this. When I click on this other new Alumni Center and call it Patel, then the Patel is supposed to come in if I hit Mesh ID and go to Patel. Now, why it's not is, it did come in this time. Look at that. So now, if I go back to the base plate, Alumni Center's over there. I can hit F to see that. It's hard to zoom all the way out with this, but the buildings are situated where they're supposed to be on the map. Except that looks suspiciously like, no, it doesn't. Looks like the Alumni Center. It doesn't look like Patel at all. So what happened there? Patel is supposed to be Patel, and it's supposed to look like that, which is different. Don't resize it and move it to the location, and nothing happens. All right, so we have a problem. So I'm going to have to go back to Blender, and I'm going to have to find my Patel college there and turn it on, and I need to select it. And it's only got 105 triangles when the other triangle stuff is on the borders, so I can turn those off. I just have Patel now. It's only got 34 faces. You'd think it would work fine. I'm going to go Export and Wavefront Object and make sure it's Selection Only, include edges, write the normals, include the UVs, and write materials. I'm going to hit Patel, or maybe I'll call it New Patel because I don't know what went wrong. Export the object, come into Roblox, and take this and go to the folder of what I want to be Patel, and hit New Patel. It comes in, it's supposed to work. Don't resize it, and put the mesh in, and nothing happens. Lordy, lordy. All right. Then there's something else I can do. I can say, all right, you're giving me trouble, Mr. Patel, but what if I were to add a cube? And if I want to go to the cube, that cube is here. And if I told it, take me to the cube, are you going to take me to the cube? You're not going to take me to the cube. Where's my cube? I'm hitting the key that I'm supposed to. I'm hitting the period key in number lock, number pad, and it ain't doing nothing. So something's really funky here today. Maybe the cube got placed in another location. Because if I turn on the collection, now will it do it? No, it won't do it. Period's supposed to take us there in Blender. But it is there. You can see it down there. There's that cube. It's a little cube. I'm going to scale it up. Except now that Blender's not even letting me use the scale function. Lordy, everything's a big problem today. Why? Well, I can save it as, I save this as USF for Roblox, and I'll put it in exports to Roblox in the folder GIS. Say Blender file. I will close Blender and I will relaunch Blender because it's acting strange. I will open up my USF for Roblox. There's my cube. Now I'm going to... There, oh, that's actually working now. Can I scale it? No, it won't let me scale it. Isn't that bizarre? User perspective, user orthographic, no scaling of my cube. Why won't you let me scale a darn cube? Since when? G lets you move it. S is supposed to scale it, and the scale is locked. Is it locked because the collection? Is there something going on with the collection? Is it? I should put it up in a different scene. Bring it down, move it inside the collection. The cube is not working. I'm going to cut it. It doesn't let me cut. I'm going to delete it. Patel College, what's wrong here? I go to Patel College, that works there. Can I scale Patel College? Can't scale anything now. It is, if I go to the object and make the origin to geometry, it's there, but it doesn't let me do anything. It's as though everything is locked, and I have not locked anything. I'll turn everything on. I still can't get anything to go. I can move it with G. I can't scale it. You'd think maybe the scaling is wrong in here somewhere in the world. In our strength color here, the scale is not locked, and I can scale it like that. That's not impossible to do, but I can't use the scale key that I'd usually use. In fact, none of them are working. Well, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to export as an FBX and see if that makes any difference. I'm going to export the selected object. Oh, I've got to get rid of everything else. So this is selected, and I'm going to hide everything by hitting Shift-H to get just that. And I'm going to export as an FBX and do selected objects only. The number of triangles is small, it's 97. And I'm going to export this as Patel FBX, and now go to Rose Blocks and go to my folder and say, well, what about Patel FBX? Will that work? No, it just refuses. That's very bizarre. What if I export it as a wavefront, and I call it instead, I call it not Patel, but I call it Susbilg. Could it be the naming convention? Is that possible? That Roblox is so darn sophisticated it doesn't take any names? Susbilg doesn't show up. Did I do it right when I exported it as a wavefront? Selection only is what I want. Nothing else is showing. But that shouldn't have done anything. And tell it, hey, we're going to do sus building. Aha, it came in. So maybe what we're learning here is that this program will not take any proper names. It just won't. It's like it recognizes every proper name in the book. That's the weirdest thing. But at least now we have the orientation somewhat correct for the buildings. You know, I mean, it really looks like, from my perspective, it looks like this. So they are positioned properly on the campus. Now what I need to do is I need to get the border frame in for my thing. So bottom border, like, why didn't that work? Usually planes work. So if I go to this bottom border here and I hit the key there it is, the bottom border. It has a material on it, so it's actually got something on it. And if I just hit Shift H and I just get that, it's got very few triangles, only 2 triangles. It obviously has a face, so maybe I'll make a weird name for that and hope that that works. Export, and I'll call it botboard, right? And go into Roblox and say, hey, I need to do Control D to duplicate the Patel here, but now it's going to be botboard. And say I want botboard, and I want to put it where it is. It says couldn't find the texture, but there it is. So it didn't have a texture. Lordy lordy, why is that? Because I'm using some weird material texture. So it doesn't like that. Don't use raster matte, use no material at all. I'll give it a color, we'll make it blue, but for some reason Blender doesn't show up in the blue unless I hit this key and look at rendered, and then it does have the blue. Isn't that nice? Alright, so fine, but the solid doesn't show up in the blue. I'm going to re-export it and call it botboard here. So there's no particular material that Roblox needs to work for, and tell it to do botboard. And there it is. And don't resize it and put it in the position, and it still doesn't show up. How ridiculous is that? But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I'll try this one here, the left border, and zoom to that one. And again, make sure that it's got that material and that we are exporting just that. And we'll call this, I think this was the left one, wasn't it? So we'll call this left board, board. And we'll try to bring that in. We're going to duplicate this ridiculous thing. So bot board now gets duplicated. It's almost like it's there, but it's not there. And rename this as left board. And for left board, open up our left board. Like that didn't do anything. Get out of my face. Why is this game thing coming up here? Like I don't want it to. Oh, did it do it? Left board is there, bot board is there. But they're teeny. And left board is up here. There's always some problem with this. Now, maybe it's because it's not dimensional, so maybe what I need to do is come in here and go into Edit and extrude in Z and just bring it down and give it some dimension, that left board. 14 meters is a bit extreme, so maybe I'll just do 5 meters. And then it has some depth to it, and then export this left border. Left board. And overwrite it. And then take this and bring in left board, which has some dimension to it now. and it didn't do a darn thing, I don't think. Although it's thinking. It's actually thinking now. It's going, wow, what do I do with this? How do I handle this information that you brought in? This intensity. And I think it has to do with the size of the map and the size of the world that you're trying to bring in. And so it may be, oh, it did come in. All right, well, there is your answer. So you come in here to Blender. Something's still going to go wrong, I tell you. But put Botboard again, pick it, and go into edit mode and select it all and hit E. You have to put your screencast keys on again. Select it, hit E in Z and start to bring it down, and then make it again the same thing. Make it 5, because why not? Because it worked last time. And now that it's there as that one, the bottom board, now export it as the bot board, overwrite the other one, come back into Roblox and find bot board. There it is. Didn't show up, and mesh ID, and now take bot board, which has some dimension now, and say, yeah, I want to know, move it, and let it do its thinking. And it's like crashing the system. Maybe it'll work. And it did come in, I think. I don't know. Bot board is there. Yep, it came in. Left board, if I hit F, shows the left board. But isn't it strange that it's not showing up as the kind of border that we thought it would? Something's really funky here about these borders. And if I reveal, I Alt-H to bring everything back, they certainly aren't lining up. That's the right border. We did bot board and left board. There is the bottom border. And I've seen this before in Roblox. It just doesn't do borders well. But this is the right border. So I'm going to select only that by hitting Shift-H. I got to give this dimension, and once again I can go into Edit, and then I can go Extrude in Z and do it for 5. And there it is, 5 meters. I did that all with keys now. But so that should work. And the other thing is that this needs just a regular material on it. And now I will export that object and back on. All right, so export wavefront object, and now this is the right border. And where did I have right border? I had right border. I'm going to call it, just to distinguish, I'm going to call it right board. Because otherwise you never know with the naming things. I don't know. Right board. Maybe it doesn't like the word borders. Who knows? All right. So that's exported. Roblox, come in. We will duplicate left board. Control D. Oh, what's this pen doing here? I didn't ask for a pen. Okay, that's bizarre. All right, I have this weird pen that's appeared on my screen, and I don't know what it is. Is it a virus? I've never heard of this before. It's only happening in Roblox or on that screen. It is the most bizarre thing in the world. What is it? Where did it come from? What does it want? If I hit escape, it goes away. All right, that was weird. Did I create another version of this? That was the strangest thing. So left board, no. I can do undo. I'm going to copy it, duplicate it. There's another left board here. This one's going to be called right board. And then I'm going to go into here and go to right board. And it should come in. Didn't come in yet. Right board did not do much. Left board, I can still find there. Right board doesn't have any dimension. Did I do something wrong in Blender? I had right board. I have to get to that key. No, what are you doing? Right border, take me there. It won't take me there the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to use a go-to object. And I can't, like Blender's freaking out. I can't even move the screen over. All right, what's going on with you, right board? This thing here has a material on it. It's called right border. I did an extrusion on it. I went into edit. I selected the whole thing. I did an extrusion in Z. I gave it some dimension down there. And I told it I really wanted it to be just 5 meters. And then I hit tab on it. And then I exported that as a wavefront object. I did selection only, and I called it right board. 581 bytes. Whereas left board was 903. Oh, that's interesting. I then went into Roblox Studio. I said to you, right board, come in. And you are right board. The object looked right. I said no. I said yes. Ah, and it comes in when it wants to. Isn't that interesting? So the last one that we're going to put in is the top border, but this is made so short now that it's really weird. As if it's not bounding at all. And I have to suspect that all these problems are because of the sheer size of the map that we're trying to make. And it's not liking that, because the right border is there. The left border, we can't even see it. It's way over there. And so the last thing we have to put in is the top board. And we'll go here, and we will find the top board. There's supposed to be it. Again, it doesn't like the rust material, so take that material, and we will go to tab, and we will go to E for extrude and Z and go down. Whoa, it didn't do that. I'm supposed to select everything first, then E, then Z. Go down and then say I really want it just to be 5 meters long, and then hit tab again to get out of that and tell it that we are going to export it as a wavefront object and call it top board. Top board is there, and bring in Roblox. We want to duplicate Control D this one, but what is now called top board will be replaced by the top board object. Move it to its location data, and there it is. So we do have this map, but the border is really crazy. And if we're to believe that those are the edges of the border, that way far over, if I keep scrolling, eventually I should get to part of the map. There it is, that border there. Then when I put objects, let me save this for crying out loud, save to file, right? Then I should have, when I go to Blender and I unhide everything with Alt H, and I say, well, yeah, great, but I want to put another building in that's on the border from all my buildings there. Let's see what happens when we put this building here. So I selected all, I hit tab, I hit Z, go to wireframe, I use my bounding box, and I go into that one there, and then I hit P for separate by selection, and I go back to tab, and I give this one a name, which is going to be called left border building. Left board building. Then that should end up on the left border, and likewise, just because we want to see if this works, we will go and hit take this part of it. I'll take this building complex down here, and we will separate by selection and tab out of that and call this one right bot building. So we have something here that we can send out and something here. So I'll take this and make it the only thing that we see, and I will send it out. Export it as wavefront object, and what was it, by the way? It was the left border building. So we go export wavefront object left border building, left board building. All right, it's the selection only, doesn't have too many triangles. And then I want to do the same thing with my right bottom building. There's that one, and oh, that didn't work out. There it is. All right, so it's there. It's got some dimension to it. It is a solid. All right, so that's my right border building, and I'm going to export that as right bot building. And they should come in the right place in Roblox Studio. Again, I would Control D and make a new, Control D does weird things when you're not in Blender. Maybe, there's some kind of drawing marking tool. That's what happened. I hit Control D, but I hit Control D when I was in Camtasia, and it made this weird drawing tool. So that's the effects tool I didn't know existed for Camtasia, I guess. That's weird. Okay, so I want to be in here on this. Now hit Control D for duplicate, and I get another top board here, and I'm going to call it left board building, and grab it and say left border building. There you are. And look at that, and it's right on the left border, as it should be. That's good. That's very endearing and encouraging. So now I'm going to Control D this, make a second building here from that, and this one is not going to be left border building. It's going to be right bottom building. And take this and go to our right bottom building and bring it in. And it shows up, but did it show up near the border? Not really. Yeah, it did, but see, the border became really tiny. So I have no idea like why it makes my borders so stupidly small. Well, what you have now is at least some dimension design of where things sort of end on the map, and we know we can bring the buildings in and they actually go in the right place. So what's the next thing to do? Well, the next thing to do, even though our borders didn't work out at all, is to create some terrain. And what you do with the terrain is you go here to regions and you make a region. Somewhere down here is fine. And you make it as big as you can. The problem is it's not really big because it is way up high. So you've got to then go to Move in the Regions tool and shrink it down, but you got to know where to make it. So that's why we kept the base plate in, because we've got to move it on top of the base plate and get it to that size, because I think that's where things came in, or at least we've got to get it down near the buildings. So you move it down and you move it over and you move it down and you move it over until you can find where the buildings are, because it's got to sit at the bottom of the building, doesn't it? And we have no idea where we are in this space until we go to the top view. And then as we move things down, there's no orthogonal view in Roblox that I can find. So it really gets weird knowing where to put things. And you want to get it to put right before you start. You want to put a fill in and put grass in and then say OK. And it's got grass on it now. and I'm having a hard time seeing where is, now it looks like we're getting some collision maybe. There's no collusion. So you've got to find a way to get to this. There we go. We finally found it. So we're going to move it to be under the buildings. This is the first tricky part for this. If you know a better way to do it, let me know. I've tried putting DEMs in and the whole works. But we get to there and make it so that it's just at the bottom of the building. And then we go to resize and we make it as large as we can. And it isn't that large, that tile, if you like. Then go to move. You've made it as big as you can, and you put it in the bottom of where your building is. And once you've done that and you've resized it, like I said, as large as you can, then you can duplicate it by going copy and then paste, and then just move it over so that it touches. And you're going to begin to tile out by pasting these things all the way along, and they're as big as it'll let you do it. And you've got to painstakingly create your world with these tiles. And just keep doing it and doing it until you get out to your border, filling in your world. You're probably thinking, well, why can't I just use the generate or the add or the subtract? You're not going to get flat surfaces, is what I found. So I'm doing this for hours and hours on end. And then eventually you reach the border, and then you paste, and then you can come over here and paste that in, and then paste again, and bring that in, and build up your world under your buildings to build your terrain with the terrain tool. We can build little bridges, make it really funny. If I can get out there. You know, if I want to be able to get to Patel, then I have to make a bridge because I don't want to fill this all in tonight. I just want to get to the point where we put a character in and show him walking without falling off the edge of the world. All right. And also to get to the Alumni Center from Patel. All right, so we're getting to the Alumni Center there. And the reason I'm doing all this is because if you try to, once I save the game and quit and sort of go in, I'll have to create another one of these regions and resize it and do the whole process again. You can't just sort of pick up where you left off. Yeah. Well, that's that at least gives us some terrain to walk on. And let me save this and let me go ahead and play, because I'm going to end up somewhere on the baseline. Actually, before I hit play, let me make sure I cover the base plate, because that's where the character is going to fall. So he's going to spawn, and I don't want him to fall through the world. So we've got a bit of terrain there, and now we hit play. And It takes its sweet time. And the character lands on that terrain. Now somewhere on the horizon, Patel College should be there, but where? Where indeed? Where is my buildings? There's a sort of reveal going on here in the world. Because it's a huge campus. Oh, I think I see a building over there. And my joints weren't too good, so he's going to have to jump. And he's going to go, and he's going to have to, whoa! So I've really got to make sure I join these things right. But where's the buildings? Where are they? I've got them on super speed here. But are the buildings in there? Well, that's certainly getting annoying, isn't it? So I can't find where my buildings are. So I need to spawn him by a building because it's such a huge terrain that I've created. That's the problem. Paste another piece on here, by the way. So I'm going to have to get really in there and find out why my joins are so bad. But the spawn point, I've got to get to Patel, so I'll grab the Patel building and I'll hit F. Hit F to get close to there. Oh, there's a terrible join there. And I'll put in the spawn point, and the spawn point is done by writing into models spawn, and then take a spawn point and drop that spawn location in. Oh, where did it go? Oops. Didn't mean to rewrite the name. There it is. That spawn point way over there. So I need to move it. And how did the spawn point end up way the heck over there? That's not good. So maybe I'm just going to delete it and try this again. Goodbye, spawn point. I wanted to go to the Patel building, if you please. Hit F. I wanted to make a spawn point somewhere like here. And then I wanted to drag my spawn point in front of the Patel building. There we go. And then put it right on the ground. And if that is the case, then I should be able to spawn now. Oh, we fell on top of a world. Well, that was awkward. That's probably because the Patel has not been anchored. So you see, you select Patel and you go anchor, and then it anchors. And we need to select the other building and go anchor, and then it anchors. And then the big USF building has to be anchored. So all of the buildings ultimately, maybe that's why they didn't show up. They fell through the world. So you want to get all your buildings anchored. The right border needs to be anchored. The top border needs to be anchored. The right building needs to be anchored. The base plate is already anchored, I guess, for some reason. But you make sure that you have everything anchored. Anchor, anchor, that, anchor, that. The Alumni Center is anchored. The big USF building, the Patel building is anchored. That may do it. So now save and play. And what happens? I do not want to buy the t-shirt. But there I am, floating in the air. Now, why am I floating in the air? Something's happening in here where there is a collision. He can't walk around that collision. Something crazy is happening on that part he can. So there's some weird collision going on, but at least now I see the Patel building. It's obviously the wrong height, so we'll have to work on that. And I see the big building and the Alumni Center. If that's the Patel, there's the Alumni Center over there. So that is how you bring in a world. But then what you're going to have to do is come in and turn on your map And all the different features that you want, like roads and such, you've got to create objects or placeholders for them and then export them and bring them in to Roblox to lay them down. So as a last thing, to show there's a road going from the Patel to the Alumni Center. So there's the Alumni Center and there's the Patel College there. If I wanted to create that road, then what I would do is I would, I find it's helpful to add a plane and make it, make that plane, move it over here and size it up if it ever sizes up at all. The size tool just seems to quit on me for some reason. So the scale of X can be brought up and the scale of Y, and it's not showing up at all. Let's do X of 50 and Y of 50. And maybe it's in the wrong location, so find it by going to the here and making its location in Z come up. You can't see its hole. Where is that? There's my little plane. It's just way too tiny. And it's not, the computer's not letting me scale it at all. Let me scale it up 100 times. Yeah, that worked. So it works from here, but it doesn't work from there. Okay, so maybe I'll do 30 here and 30 here, and maybe in Z, one is fine. And I want to put its location in Z down on the bottom and then move it up so it just begins to appear, so it's just on the ground, right? And then I want to start painting with it, really. So not painting, but sort of describing a location. So what I'll do is I will take this road like this and I'll rotate. It won't even let me rotate. Well, how lame is that? I rotate it in, not in Y, but I rotate it in Z. And then I move it like this, and I go into Tab to edit and deselect and select the top 2 points, and I grow them with G to make a kind of road here. And then I do extrude when I want to make a turn and select a point to turn with. And then I can select these and with G drag it out like that. And then select these 2 points. And you can do this extrude and scale it in. And then hit G and you start making objects that will be roads. Here I will go to my knife tool, if the knife tool is around. Knife, bisect, split. That won't let me do it. And now, it's not letting me do it. Add point maybe? Nope. Well, when that happens, and I'm getting tired now, then I'm just going to go like this, and then I'm going to extrude up like this, and then I'm just going to select points like that and do my work that way. Hit extrude, go down to here, hit extrude, come to here, and you can see how you would painstakingly make your roads. Actually, there and there, and oops, do your extrusion and extrude again. And then grab this. And then do an extrusion here, and twist these. So what we've basically done is made a road that can then, oops, we want to extrude it. It's not doing it. What's wrong with you? It won't extrude. Extrude in. Oh, it's got points that it's missing. Sometimes when you're selecting, you've got to go to wireframe so you can get all your points. And then grow it out. Let's see what it looks like in solid. Nah, it's gone underground. Oh, the whole thing is twisted up. That's not going to be a good road at all. So let's select the whole thing and let's go to the view here, a 3 view, and let's rotate it because that got funky. And then we will grab it and move it down. And now it's a little bit better. You can actually walk on it, we hope. All right, so that then becomes the object. Shift H. Oh, once I tab out of it, that becomes the object that I want to create as a road. It's kind of funky road. Export this as an object and call it Road Patel to Alumni. It's not a perfect road yet, but select that and send that one out. And go to Roblox and bring it in by selecting this building, for example, and duplicating it and changing it to Road Patel Alumni. We can bring in a better road later on. You know, this is the new building. This is now the road. And then find it and bring it in. And it should have worked, but it's underground. There it is. All right, so actually there is a road there. Now I can change the material of this road to concrete or asphalt, if asphalt's available. No, there's no asphalt available here. So I'll make it a concrete road and then make the color a concrete-like color. So I have a road there. Let's make it more interesting. Road like that. So the road came in, and when the character now is going to walk, he's going to walk on the road. Now you can do another thing as well. You can come down here and you can start painting around this. If you look at the actual picture here, and I turn on the Google map, you can see that there's like some trees there, and we can start putting them in. There's some concrete there. You have the ability in Roblox to come over here and you can paint with the paint key, and you can paint asphalt around. So if I paint asphalt there and I paint under the road, I can make other parts of this. So I really need an object. If I had the map, the problem is I was never able to bring in a map in successfully and make it the right size. That is one of the disadvantages, but you can definitely paint stuff around here. It doesn't let you get underneath the road here, so you'd have to keep moving the road like down under and painting what you see around it. So if you were on asphalt, you could paint asphalt, but you'd have to keep moving the road to do it, even if the strength is up. Yeah, so it's a bit of a problem. something to work on with that. But now that the road is in there, the problem is going to be it's like a huge collision, and he's going to bump into the road. So unless you get him up on the road, he's going to be having a heck of a time. So we've got to move the road as low down as possible so he can jump on top of it and start moving. And then hit play. And he's floating because he's near some collision. There he is. He goes on the ground. And there's the road. Follow the road. Oh, yuck. Wow. Oh, he's on the road now. All right, so now, but the collision box is so bizarre that he's sort of floating above the road as he walks to the Alumni Center. And if he falls off it, the collision is like there. It's like weird. I can't even find it anymore. Yeah, he's definitely, the road is somewhere over here. See, and it's like above him in the air, and then he bumps into it and goes bang, bang, bang. So the road is a problem, this particular road. If I were to put it down as low as possible, the collision is still pretty high because it was a really distorted road. It wasn't flat. But this gives, I think, an idea for how to go about beginning to make a real-world place in Roblox. And if you had the courage to watch this far, good for you, because I said this was going to be short, and it isn't. It's taken me forever. He's going to hit something in the air. Boom, he's going to hit. Now he's on the road, and then the road goes underground, and then it comes up. But you can see where I painted the asphalt in the terrain. Eventually, I'd like to replace the entire road just with asphalt painted on the terrain. And that's going to be what I'm going to do next. Okay, bye.